Welcome back to Tough Luck with Desanti. I'm your host, Desanti, and this interview was actually recorded prior to the starting of this podcast, so the audio might be a little bit lower quality than standard, but please do not let that take away from how valuable this interview is. The following interview is with Mr. Halawa. He's a very successful food marketer in Houston. Very amazing principles and values, so please keep listening. And if you love food and business and marketing, then you're in the right place. Enjoy.
Mr. Halawa, halal and some non-halal too, but mostly Houston. So it kind of happened. I wasn't looking for it. I think that's kind of how everything happens in life. So I started off doing architecture photography in downtown Houston, just as a hobby. And then one of my good friends, his name is Esad, he's also a halal blogger. That's all he does. And so he sees my photography one day. He's like, man, you got some skill with a camera. Why don't you come out to a tasting with me? And I was kind of like, what do you mean by tasting? He told me just come out. I was like, all right. So I went out, had my camera, and we just started hanging out. And at the end of the dinner, we had all this food out on the table, and I was about to pay. And my guy was like, what are you doing? Put your wallet away. I was like, what do you mean, man? There's like a lot of food here. Like, who's paying for this? He's like, man, they gave me a $950 budget to work with. I was like, mind blown. So I was like, this is like a lifestyle? He's like, yeah, man, just start tagging along with me. So from there, the passion of architecture photography turned into food photography. And I started finding out that I had a skill in that naturally. So I just started to sharpen that skill, and before you know it, restaurants started noticing my work on Instagram, and they just started contacting me left and right. So I was able to shoot with a lot of restaurants in Houston, and now I take care of a lot of their marketing too. So yeah, it just happened out of nowhere. Yeah, he's running on about he has 2 pages, about 30,000 followers. Yeah, and usually they're the ones reaching out because they want more awareness. If you're passionate about it, I would say don't force anything. Surround yourself with people who are in that industry and just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. My first food picture was trash. I look back on it, and now I'm like, thank God I'm being paid thousands of dollars to shoot food.
How long did it take to evolve yourself now to this point?
I would say the first year of it's been 2 years, but the first year was definitely like, it was just like, can I cuss on the show?
Yeah.
All right. It was kind of like, you eat shit for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm going to all these tastings, and everybody around me was like, what are you doing? My family was like, my dad looks at me, he's like, why are you taking pictures of sandwiches? I was like, Baba, like one day I think it'll pan out. So the first year was just getting experience, like networking. Mm-hmm. So you have to create this trust with the restaurants, putting your name out there. And then I remember the second year, I had a pretty popular restaurant here in Houston. They're also all halal, Gyro King. So Gyro King, the owner there, they invite me to a tasting, and he's like, can you put us on your page? And I was like, sure. So I get my picture of his food, and he sees the picture, and he's like, brother, I need you to become my full-time photographer. I was kind of like, okay, so what do I do with this? So then I started thinking, because like my background is all business, family and everything. So I was like, why don't I create like a whole package for him? I'll do his food photography, I'll manage all his social media, and I'll manage all the influencers that come out. So I sat down with him, we worked this package together, agreed on a price, and we've been working together for over a year now.
Your only client?
No, actually, it was crazy because when that first happened, I was like, how do I scale this into a business? Mm-hmm. And I was so confused, I don't know what I was doing, but he kept pushing me. And he was like, I believe in you, and I can see your creativity, and I know you can unlock it. So I was like, all right. So I remember about 4 months in, he was planning to open a new location in the north side. And he's like, brother, I need you to do a grand opening in a media day. And I have no idea what I'm doing. So I called my boy, I said, I'm like, hey man, I need your help. So he has more experience in that, like the whole grand opening thing. He's worked for several companies. So he's like, let's just plan this out. We start planning it. And I remember on grand opening day, like in my head before grand opening day, I was like, if I get 10 clients or 10 restaurants to work with me for this year, I'm good. And grand opening day comes, I was nervous. I was like, man, I don't know if anybody's gonna show up. We put out all this like publicity to get this place open. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of Facebook events, blasted it through all the influencers and foodies in Houston. We held like a media day to let Houston know that, hey, we're opening up a location in the north side.
That's what typically happens before a grand opening, right? They have a day where it's only media and press, right?
100%, and that's what we did. And I remember when the grand opening day came, we had a line of 300 people wrapped around the building.
Oh.
I was mind blown. I was walking up the line and people were like, "Hey, you're Mr. Halawa. I came because of you." I was just
That's
like, "This
crazy.
is crazy."
Yeah.
And within the next week, I signed on 10 new restaurants. Wasn't expecting it, so now it became like catching up. How do I turn this into a business?
Now you're scaling. Now
Yeah,
you have
scaling,
to on
yeah.
the back end kind of structure it.
Exactly. So the whole like structuring, that was a challenge. But it took me a good solid like 6 to 8 months to organize it more, and I'm still organizing to this day. I've worked with a lot of restaurants and some fell off, some stayed. So it's just been growing from there. My family owns a Oriental rug business, and we've been in that for 25 years. We're actually selling it off this year. It's like a dead industry. So this kind of came in at the right time.
Did you ever think that you would pursue food photography? Like, did you get backlash at first?
You know, when I was younger, everybody like, when you see food, you take pictures of it, right? So like I would put on my Snapchat, and then when Instagram happened, it was more so just personally me. I never thought that it would become what it is today. And I got a lot of backlash from, whether it was like friends who would look at you and like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
You know, or family that was kind of like, "What are you doing?" Because they didn't understand it. Again,
Yeah.
it's a different generation, so like I can't really blame them. So like with my team, I have 2 guys who work with me. One of them is actually Asad, my other friend who joined on recently. He was looking for some part-time work, so I was like, "Hey man, I can, we could work together." So he came in, and then outside of that, the team is kind of like other influencers. It's a lot of collaboration. As far as the structuring of the business, I've had to turn it into where it's a corporation, just to do it legitimately. And then from there, I schedule out shoots, whether it's once a month or once every quarter. So like social media, it runs on content. Without good content, you're not going to go anywhere. So I personally now, I'm the photographer behind it, the videographer. I go out there, I get all the content of like the menu, we do crazy ideas. So actually it's 2 things. Tastings are all by themselves. So a lot of times restaurants will just reach out and be like, "Hey, can you come try our food?" And I'll be like, "Sure, I'm there." Now the business side of it is I work with certain restaurants, and a part of their package is I'll come out every month and I do a photo shoot or a video shoot. We create content for that month or for the 2 months. Now that content gets pushed onto social media, and then from there we coordinate more influencers to come in. Like that combination drives new business. So halal is the permissible way or the recommended way to slaughter an animal. The animal shouldn't suffer. So like in today's industry, you see a lot of just mass slaughtering, and you get like the hormones jumping, the adrenaline jumping, and it does something to the meat,
Yeah.
right? And there's actually stories of several restaurants in Houston, one of them like Stanton City Bites. They got into halal meat because of the quality of the meat. By chance, they didn't know that, it was gonna be different. And actually there's several videos of like how it is to slaughter the animal. It's actually a much more peaceful process.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so like the whole idea is when you come to slaughter the animal, some of the people who do it, let's say in the name of God, they'll calm the animal down, cover its eyes with its ears, and even read some of the holy book to it till it's submitted and quiet. And then you have to take its life immediately. Like it can't suffer, none of that. Because even like my family, we have like a ranch out in Richmond, and we have animals. And I remember one time there was one goat we were trying to slaughter. This is a little graphic. Slit to the throat. He cuts loose and starts running around the house. So we have to catch him again and then do the deed. But I would say most of the time it goes through pretty smooth. I would say the main separation is, you have Jews and Muslims. But as far as like, I know a lot of Muslims who will accept kosher as halal. So I have a friend that again, if he can't find halal meat at a place, then he goes pescatarian. As far as I know, just the process, like in general of fish, the animal is much smaller, and to kill a fish is much easier than killing a cattle. So I want to believe it's along those lines. Now back like when we go back to like the days of the Prophet, most of the meat in that region was either an ox or a lamb or a goat.
Mammals, big
yeah,
mammals.
things like that. So the way about slaughtering them was more specific towards halal. So like the whole halal thing usually goes towards like lamb, chicken, beef. That's pretty much it. That's as much as I know.
I read somewhere that fish also don't have as a developed nervous system
Yeah.
as other mammals.
Yeah,
So it's
that's another
probably
thing too. Yeah.
more considered as peaceful than.
Yeah, you'll see fishes like sometimes they kill a fish just by popping it on the head. Like,
Do you consider yourself more as a food kind of? I don't know what the word for it is. Would you consider more in the food industry or the marketing and content media photography industry?
So I consider myself a food marketer.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like my specialty is food. I do market a few other things, but for the most part it's food. And in the marketing side of it, something that I've learned was that because I deal with so many restaurants, another service I picked up is consulting. So there's a lot of restaurants that don't know the direction that they're going. They don't know because in Houston we have 72,000 restaurants. So like when a new spot pops up and they go and make a burger, like what's gonna drive other people to come try your burger when there's all these other burgers? So that's where somebody who understands the industry can come in and be like, hey, maybe you can do this to make it better, to bring in new hype. So overall, like I would say a bit of both, definitely the food and the marketing side of it, but also consulting is getting more and more popular with me. A lot of restaurants, they just want to sit down and talk. Yeah.
It's really cool how this stems from food photography to now
Yeah.
you're learning the industry and what you're good at.
And I always tell these restaurants, I'm like, look, everything about the marketing side is going to start with the content. What can we create? And from there, you can pique the interest of the consumer. And they see that. I mean, the stats behind it, when videos go viral, things we do, they're just like, dude, people are coming in and showing us their phone. I'm like, that's incredible. It's wild. That's just the way of marketing. When it comes to food, I would say, like you said, reputation is huge. When a restaurant wants to work with you, they're opening everything about their business up to you. So it's a trust thing too. So if you don't have a good reputation in the city, not gonna go far. That's just the bottom line. They gotta trust you, and you gotta have a huge sense of creativity. Because you have to understand, like in my industry, the restaurant owners, all they know is their kitchen and their business. And a lot of restaurant owners, they're from the morning till late at night. So they don't know the world around them. That's where people like us who create content and are creators, we can come and be like, hey, this is something you're missing out on. Let's evolve it. But just to kind of touch on the what you said about reputation, I think reputation is so powerful that actually all the people I work with now came from reputation. Not a single client did I have to go and get him myself. They all, like, thank God, came to me, and it was just because of my name. That was something that was mind-blowing to me, because one restaurant owner knows 10 others, and when they're like, hey, your page is popping off, what's going on, how's business? They're like, it's great, call my marketing guy. I have a close guy that I work with. He has an ice cream truck. It's called Doko. And he's kind of like a mentor to me because he knows so much. And he's opened up the doors to so many other restaurants for me. And he's like, hey man, whenever you want to sit down with these guys, just let me know. You know, and it's been like that. There's a place I work with now. It's called Nomad. It's a hookah place. They opened up about 40, 50 days ago. And just to talk about reputation and trust, he first opened, his place was empty. This guy was kind of like in a hole because his previous restaurant failed. And he sold off everything, and he's like, dude, this has to work for me. This was before I met him. The guy who does his restaurant supply is a close friend of mine. So he goes there and he's like, bro, this is a nice place, but it's kind of quiet. So the owner at Nomad was like, well, what can I do? I need it to like work. So my boy's like, call up Mr. Halawa, and it's a wrap. So a connection got here and there, and then before you know it, I'm at his place doing a tasting. And I remember when I was doing the tasting there, people who follow me were showing up to the place. So the owner was like, he's like, how can we work together? And then from that day on, when we start working together, if you go there now, I guarantee you it's packed. So and he told me like today, he's like, bro, what you did, like, I thank you every day for it. For me, that's what makes it work. To be able to have that gift and give it back to the world, that other people can benefit from your gift, and now they're gifted. That's the bigger thing behind it. That's where your integrity comes in. You know, some people are just in it for the money. And I remember when I sat down with this guy, I told him my price. I was like, bro, I just don't have the budget right now. I was like, what can you do? And when he started talking to me, he was like, bro, if I grow, you grow. I was like, we're talking the same language. So whatever you can do, let's do it. And then the rest is history, man. So actually, it took me 10 years to get a bachelor's degree. I'm 28 right now. I started in college when I was like 19. And I would do part-time. I was actually married before I got a divorce early on. So my life kind of got put on hold because I went through marriage and everything. I was always a business person. Like when I was 7 years old, I was at my dad's shop, learning how to deal with people. Is school the way to become an entrepreneur? Honestly, like my degree is in supply chain management. So a lot of the things I did was marketing and management. It's a great degree to have, but like, does it give you real experience? No. Because when I was in those classes, the professor was teaching things and I was like, I already know this. He's just saying it in a more like eloquent way, you know? So I was like, real life experience is what creates a true entrepreneur. Because I think all you need to be as an entrepreneur is one, the toughness to deal with failure, and two, the creativity. Because if you're not creative, if you sit in your own space and your mind isn't working, like if you see something and it needs a solution, but you don't see that solution, then you're not going to get anywhere. I'll tell you a little story. I was in Chicago like a couple months ago. I was hanging out with a friend. She has a son. And I was like, I want to get your son a toy. All right. And I looked at the prices of toys and I was like, man, these toys are kind of expensive. And I asked her, I was like, how many toys does he have? She was like, probably like 500. You know, the room is filled with toys. So immediately I was like, how many babies are there and how many toys do they need and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what if I created a service that was a subscription box that sends you out 10 toys a month and you can exchange them every month? And then you don't have to go out and you pay a flat fee of like 100 or 150 a month.
Beautiful.
You don't have to go out anymore. She was like, what? I would definitely subscribe to that. I told that to my cousin who has some babies and she was like, bro, that's what we need. Like, I don't have time to go to Target every day because my son wants a toy and it's way cheaper. So like that's kind of the creativity.
What's gonna make it
Exactly.
easier? What's gonna be more efficient? What's gonna waste less?
That's what it takes.
Creatively.
Absolutely.
Do people approach you on Instagram trying to get you to mentor them, asking you for advice?
Actually, it's crazy because my Instagram, I would say, like other than food, it's a personality. A lot of people, like I share a lot of, I'm Muslim, and a lot of people who follow me are also Muslims, and even non-Muslims. And I share a lot of like Islamic culture, whether it's quotes or things that we believe in. And a lot of people will come and ask me about the religion or about like my view in life. And a lot of people also actually like ask me about fitness because they wonder, how do you eat all this food, you know? So I try to mix in like, I don't want to just feed your body. I want to feed your soul and your mind, and like, you know, your goodness, right? So that's the true influence behind it. Because in this world, I always tell people there's two kinds of people. You're either influenced or the influencer. If you're on the influencer end, try to influence something good because those other people are looking up to you. They haven't gotten to your level yet, but inspire them. So I have a lot of people who reach out to me and they'll tell me stuff like, I'm now open my DMs and people are like, dude, the thing you shared, like I needed to read that. Or thanks so much for saying what you said. And that makes my day. I'm like, I'm glad that this inspired somebody. And that's something I kind of wanted to set up as like a foodie ride along, like come along on a journey.
So cool.
Just show them the whole experience. Because people like to watch that stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
you should do it as a giveaway.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Go around like a tour in the city. That'd be pretty dope. Failure shouldn't break you. But I think before anything, when you come to success and failure, like I personally believe that it comes down to commitment. But before you commit to others, you need to commit to yourself. If you fail to commit to yourself, you're going to fail commitment to everybody. Whether it's in business, relationship, in a friendship, you're just going to fail. Now, failure itself is not a bad thing. Like, yes, it can be devastating. I've watched some of our own businesses, our family business failed, and it was in my hands. I failed that. I've set up certain like events that just didn't go well. I would say a part of me failed in my marriage. So like these were some things that taught me that, okay, I failed, but I'm not going to stop and keep going. And as long as you keep going and keep doing and just don't stop living, there's better things to come. But some people, when failure hits them, that's it, they shut down. They're like, dude, I failed.
Yeah.
And along that path, you meet people who start to unlock your potential. One of the guys that works with me, he was kind of in this just plateau in his life. And then he started showing me what he can do. And I was like, bro, we can create a whole company with just your talent. What are you doing? And then when I opened his eyes to it, he's like, dude, you're right. Like, how can we do this? So that's sometimes all it takes is those people along the path. I think now that like I've accumulated a good place in my life now, because I always wanted work to where I can manage it mobily anywhere in the world.
That's my vision.
Yeah, that's just, and honestly, I feel like that's kind of the millennial vision. And because like me being in a retail environment my whole life, I was like, I can't do this forever. So I like being able to do all my work from home or a cafe. That's just how I am. I'm kind of an on-the-go guy. So this year I've kind of dedicated to myself to travel every month somewhere. So coming up March, I'm planning to go to Doha, Dubai, and Turkey. So I just want to get away and then probably go visit the motherland, Palestine. And then yeah, that's coming up. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Mr. Halawa, Halawa. You can check out my website, mrhalawa.com. That's pretty much it. That is my platform.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Tough Luck with Desanti. I'm your host, Desanti, and if you're not following Tough Luck Podcast on Instagram, be sure to do so right now. It is at Tough Luck Podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review and share with a friend and share on your story, and I'll share it on my story and we can do a little shout out for shout out, you know what I mean? So thank you. Have a good night. Bye.